Okay, for the next part of this project, we are gonna start working on fluid changes. Coolant, power steering fluid, transfer case fluid, rear differential fluids. We're gonna start there. The transmission fluid has already been changed on this, so we're gonna not worry about this, and we're gonna save the front differential fluid for another video in the future. Tell you that in the future. But we're gonna focus on those fluids today. So I'll kind of show you the process I went through. I follow a guy on YouTube. His channel is Ford Mako Tech. I think that's his name. A lot of people love this guy's channel. It's really good. I'm doing the process that he told me to use. I actually reached out to him and I'm doing his process. The process is simple. Drain the radiator, fill the radiator back up with hose water. Do that like a handful of times. Fill and drain, fill and drain, fill and drain. Clean out the reservoir bottle. If there's any gunk, in this case, 163,000 miles, you can imagine. Go through a cleaning process. You can use a cleaning process from Ford. They've got a Motorcraft, I think it's called like WCL. I'll include a link down below where you can do the flushing. But per the recommendation of that channel, I actually didn't go through that step, but I did multiple steps of hose running, radiator draining. I did that 10 times, okay? Literally 10 times until the coolant that was in the reservoir and the radiator was clear. Then I drained it again. Now this next step is a little over the top and you don't have to do it, but I was trying to get as much of the coolant out of the engine as possible. So what I ended up doing was jacking up the rear of the truck as much as possible. So the truck was really, really tilted up. So any coolant in the back of the engine, I could try to get it to flow out of the radiator. And believe it or not, guys, it actually worked. I didn't get all of it out that way, but I got a lot more than not doing it at all. I went through that whole process. And then what I did was bought a coolant tester, which is like $4 at like an O'Reilly's. I'll put a link down below if you want to buy one on Amazon. I then used that tester to figure out what my levels of concentration of water to coolant was in the engine. Then I bought from my local dealer pure concentrate Motorcraft Gold coolant. You could choose your coolant. That's just what I went with per the manual. Then what I did was added the concentrate and kept checking how much I needed to add with distilled water. That's the key. You got to make sure you're running distilled water. And then I mixed it where I had the perfect 50-50 balance of coolant in this vehicle. So now we're going to go through that step. What we did the other day was flush the coolant system. I'm still working on this. Right now I'm running straight water. I don't recommend doing this if you're going to be driving a whole lot, especially in cold climates, because you will mess up the engine or the cooling system. But what I'm specifically looking for right now is before I go and spend the money on adding new coolant, I want to see if I actually have an issue with the oil cooler. I'll replace the oil cooler. I don't mind doing that. It's not even that expensive, but purposely, I don't want to just put in extra effort if not needed. When you're doing the coolant flush, just my opinion, I'd recommend pulling, this is actually pretty easy to remove, this air filter box, which contains the reservoir, because the gunk gets nasty in there, and I've already cleaned out the inside, and it's just got straight water in it right now. Well, first part of this messy process is trying to get under the hood and do a lot of work. And when I mean a lot of work, I got a lot going on. So some mice actually got into, this thing's been sitting in a barn for about 4 years. So I've got this mess going on right now. If you see that wire harness back there, we went through it yesterday just to get it running, and we did. And we found some wires kind of mangled. We stripped all the loom off of it, and we've got it patched up. I'm gonna go through and fix it correctly, solder and do some heat shrink tubing. But we got it running, which is good. There's a lot of stuff to do to this thing. Cosmetically, I'm not even worried about it right now. Focus right now is powertrain. So one of the first things I'm doing right now is just going through fluids, flushing the coolant system right now. Once that's complete, I'm going to do an oil change next week. Going to be doing transfer case, transmission, both differentials, just starting with those fluids. I've got a wire on this backside. Look at this mess. I don't know if you can see up in there, but there's some rust. Four-wheel drive's not engaging. And actually, if you see the end of that wire right there, that's an ABS wire. So we got to, at least at a minimum, replace an ABS wire. But this truck is 100% stock. Engine, trans, powertrain, 162,000 miles. It actually sounds good. But I'm still going to go through this thing and, you know, clean it up and make sure everything is up to snuff. So this is going to be a long process. Fuse 27 looked good. Original spark plugs, 162,000 miles. But in general, it's in pretty good shape. Inside is really clean, actually. Here's why it's a good idea to flush this. I've already drained this twice, but look what just spit out right there. That was in there. I've already pulled this whole system off right here, cleaned out the degas bottle or reservoir, and there's still a ton of nasty crap. That just came out of the overflow line. So I'm gonna flush the crap out of this thing and then do the proper process of distilled and the correct Ford Motorcraft coolant. But this is why you should do it. 160,000 miles. Good reason to get it done. Now we're gonna finish on the coolant. We've been going through multiple rounds of hose water. Now we gotta replace that hose water with distilled water before we start adding coolant back in. We're gonna fill the radiator up now with distilled water, and I'm gonna empty the reservoir completely. Okay, I've went through a full flush on this thing, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. If I did it again, the lazy way to do it is just drain the radiator and then just fill up with a pre-mix 50-50. But I decided to go the extra mile and drain the whole system, do 10 plus hose garden fill-ups, drains, then fill it with distilled water. A ton of work. And the problem is now is getting the mixture perfect of that 50-50 or 60-40 is proving to be a little challenging. So I had to buy this little tester. So we're gonna do it now and see where we're at, kind of see where it's at. So I'm gonna continue to kind of keep driving it around, and maybe I can squeeze in a little bit more concentration of direct antifreeze. We got the coolant all mixed correctly, got it to the min cold setting on the reservoir, and we've got the fluid in the radiator. Everything's good. I've put a few thousand miles on it now. Mixture's 50-50, and we are all set. All right, guys, so here's what I would recommend if you plan on doing a coolant flush in your Raptor or 2009 to 14 F-150. Number one, take a look at your manual. Make sure you understand the specs of what type of coolant to run. Talk to your dealership. Watch a bunch of videos on YouTube, just like I did. I even talked to some of the experts on YouTube and followed their insights. With that being said, if I did it again, there's newer, better coolant options I'd probably go with. And in all fairness, I think I would have made my life easier, and I would have just done a straight drain on the radiator and mix a 50-50 OEM blend of some Motorcraft fluid instead of going through this process I did, because this has taken a tremendous amount of effort. And I really wonder if it's just, are you chasing diminishing returns at this point? I did it, what I think is probably a pretty thorough process, but man, it's a lot of work. And I don't think most people go through that amount of work to do it. Or find someone that can do a power flush and you can cycle the whole system out, and then you're guaranteed to get everything out. Regardless, I went through it. I hope this video is helpful for you. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. This is just how I went about it. I'm not a professional mechanic, just trying to help you guys out. Hope you're enjoying this Raptor project video. Thanks for watching.